Hello everyone, let's install a dash cam in the XK8. Now, before we begin, I will not be going over the camera, its features, its software, its settings, and so on. I will not be covering those things in this video. I will strictly try to stick to the process of installing the camera in the vehicle. Your camera could be different. This process should work for any camera and mostly any car really, because the fundamentals are the same for all vehicles. I will try to film in detail, and I will also provide context as to why, not just the how. So the video will likely be long, but it will contain everything you need to know when it comes to installing and specifically hardwiring a dash cam into your vehicle. The first thing you want to do is test. Make sure that your equipment works. With modern day electronics, you never know. There may be an issue. You want to know that everything's okay before you start taking things apart and running wires through your vehicle. So take the wiring kit that comes with the camera. Pretty much all cameras have at least this wiring kit included, which goes in the cigar lighter. Plug it in, plug the other end into the camera, and now you would not see any activity because this circuit is not energized. We need to turn the key. There we go. And the camera is turning on, so now it will boot up and we have footage. So far so good. It has a small capacitor inside, so it films for another couple of seconds and then it turns off. All right, so the camera works, but we will not be using it with this wiring kit. Instead, we would be leveraging a hardwiring kit, which may have come with the camera. Some cameras come with a kit like this. In my case, I had to buy it separately, but in either case, you want to test your hardwiring kit as well. So now we're gonna go ahead and do that. An important step in the testing process is to make sure that the battery has sufficient voltage. Most dash cams have built-in low voltage protection. It is usually around 11.7, 11.5 volts. So if the battery voltage is below that, the camera will not power on. In fact, you may want to do this check before you even try the cigar lighter test, because if your battery voltage is low, even though the cigar lighter circuit will get energized, the camera will not power on. So you may be left with the impression that the camera is not working where the voltage is not high enough. So let's take a look at what we have here. For my battery currently, I am at 13.06 volts. So this is way more than enough, than sufficient for the camera. So now we can proceed with the test. Take your hardwiring kit, find the USB end. There's the USB-C. Plug that into the camera and just have it in a way where you can see the display or the indicator knowing that it's powered on. Now take the other end of the wiring kit. This particular kit has two wires, a ground and a positive, a power. Some wiring kits have three wires, a ground and two power wires. Now, the reason for that is the following. Many cameras, including this one actually, have an added security feature where even if the car is off, if the camera detects shaking or an impact to the vehicle, the camera would start recording footage on its own, even though the car is not working. That third wire is meant to supply power to the camera all the time. With our cars, everybody knows how important battery voltage is and how we do not want battery voltage to drop, because that could lead to an endless kind of problems with the electronics of the vehicle. Because of that, I am not leveraging those security features of the camera. I don't care for them. I will not be providing power to the camera if the engine is off, meaning I will only energize the camera when the car is working through these two wires. I don't need the third wire. So I bought a wiring kit with only two wires, not with three. If you want to do it differently, you can look for a wiring kit that has three wires rather than two. Now, ground, positive, we just want to connect it here. Let's make sure we get these right. Here's my ground. Now, keep the fuse in and just connect this end here. Okay, and now hopefully the camera powers on. There we go, the light is on. We're gonna wait a little bit. And we have footage. All right. Now we know at this point that the wiring kit itself is also good. And we can then proceed with running those wires through the car and connecting everything. Let's move on to that step. Here is the disconnection. Capacitor is in play now, and shortly after it powers off. I will wire the camera to the fascia fuse box on the right hand side of the vehicle. Here in North America, this is the passenger side. And in here, I will leverage this 20 amp yellow fuse. This is the fuse for the circuit of the cigar lighter. Now, why do I want to use this and not any of those free ones, for example? Well, here's the thing. Those free slots are actually empty in a sense that there is no wiring behind them. So if I plug the fuse in here, see how it's completely loose? It's not connecting to anything. There are no metal wires at the back for this fuse to attach to connect to. Is the case here, and that's the case here. So I cannot use those empty slots. Are literally empty slots, and you cannot leverage them for anything. So I'll have to use the 20 amp cigar lighter fuse, and this will be my plus. Where is the ground going to be located? So there are many options for that, but what I like, the one option that I like and that I would like to use is there is a big metal plate right here underneath. This is the footwell light, and this plate is a beautiful ground, and there are many holes on it which could be used for a bolt to pass through and connect the grounding wire. So this is right underneath in the footwell, and here is the fuse box. So basically, plus will be here, the ground will be just down here. This is the plan. Now, if you want, it may be a good idea to actually test the camera with the hard wiring kit connected to those 2 points before we run the wires through the vehicle. So just here, I'm going to now connect them and make sure that the camera will power on. All right, with your 20 amp fuse removed, which protects the cigar lighter circuit, you need to plug it into this end of the wiring harness. There is a slot allocated for it. You need to use the slot closer to these 2 pins. So just plug that fuse in. Now you have 2 fuses, one protecting the cigar lighter, the other one protecting the camera itself. This then goes in the same spot where you took the cigar lighter fuse out from. So you need to plug this in. There we go. Now, the ground, this is the positive. The ground will come down. You see my finger? There's plenty of space here. So I have pushed the ground wire down this way. right here. And once it goes through there, there it is. You can connect it anywhere you like on this metal plate. I've just temporarily held it there with a bolt, and of course in the final installation this wire will be routed better and it will be out of the way and not visible. But this is just to test whether those two connection points would work and power the camera as expected. The camera is not powered now. I will turn the ignition on. There we go. And you see the green light come on with the footage. There we go. So those two access points are perfect for this wiring harness. I will turn the car off now and the camera will power off. So now I know that when I stop the engine, no additional drain from the battery will be happening as a result of the camera. All right, the next stage is to talk about the routing of this black cable, which needs to basically go from the box here all the way to the location of the camera on the windshield. All right, I would like the camera to be positioned relatively around here, something like this, where I have to be careful not to get it too close to those heating elements, right? Leave a bit of a distance. I also want it relatively close to the mirror so that the sun visor could come down without hitting the camera or the camera obstructing the motion of the sun visor. So something like this would be a good spot in general. We're going to finalize this later. But the point is that from here, this would be the end of the cable. From here, I would need to run it along sideways. It needs to come down the pillar and then down into the fuse box. Now, what I'm hoping is that to achieve this, I only need to remove this side trim piece here. Hopefully that is enough and I don't need to disassemble anything else. Let's give that a try. Now the trim piece is held by 3 clips roughly here, here, and here. They're just pushed in, and to get them out we need to pull this way. This rubber seal here overlaps the trim piece, so that would just move out of the way as we're working. Now you can use a trim tool to kind of get in behind here. You see this separation, right? You create a bit of separation so that you can pull. There we go. Click. I had the bottom ones separated already prior to filming, but I just wanted to show you roughly the process. And here are the 3 clips. You see them, 1, 2, 3. Right, so I just unclipped the top one. The bottom ones are the same way. You just pull close to them, they come out. Now, I have this sensor here. Other cars, older cars, for example, won't have this. Up to you if you want to disconnect and get this completely out of the way. I would just leave it sort of hanging like this for now. But this is how you sort of get the trim piece out of the way, and now you have access to this area in order to get the cable through. I recommend you start backwards, which means start from the bottom, from the box, and push the cable up only as long as much as you need to get to the camera. So let's take a look at the fuse box again, and you'll see why it is actually quite easy and recommended to start from there and go up. All right, so back at the fuse box, I have my ground going in and connected as we discussed earlier. I also have my positive wire here with the fuses, but past that, the rest of the wiring harness looks like this. I have a bunch of extra wire here. Then I have this black box, and then I have the black USB-C cable which goes all the way to the camera. So if I'm going from the top, I would have to get all of this material stuff. I need to get that passed through here somehow and down to this area, which would be problematic. So if I instead keep all of this tucked away at the bottom, like so, there's actually plenty of space here under the fuses for this to comfortably slide in and just live there, as well as this, right? If I put these items in here like this, here's my positive connection, then the only thing I have left is the black USB-C cable, which needs to go upwards and connect to the camera. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that actually there's a direct path from here all the way up, and you don't need anything additional to get this through other than just push it upwards. Now, I will go over here and push this up, and as it is going up, on top, right here, you can probably see the gap. You see it right there? That's where the cable will come out from. I would slide my two fingers in here and be ready to pinch the cable like so as it shows up. So my left hand would be waiting for the cable. My right hand would be feeding it through the bottom here, like so, straight up. And there is a direct, unobstructed connection, and you get your cable out on that side. Let me do that now. All right. My left hand is going on top to receive the cable, and with my right hand, I'm just feeding it vertically up here. There we go. Now I've pinched it with my fingers on top, and I'm pulling it up. There we go. And this is the end of it. It is super straightforward. You don't need any additional tools or gadgets to get this through. Now, once this cable is here, you can continue routing it. Oops, sorry about that. You can continue routing it along the pillar and then to the left. All right, now with the cable coming up vertically through here, I have it go behind this wiring, and then it would continue along the wiring this way until it reaches this trim piece up here. Now, because we have removed the side piece, this piece can be pulled out a little bit. That's all you need in order to get this cable in. And once it is in, here I can show you, it is very easy to just tuck it in between the piece and the windshield. And it is completely hidden, like it is in. I hope it doesn't fall off as I drive. At least on my other vehicle where I installed the same camera, there was not a problem. That's exactly how I ran the cable, and it didn't fall out. But it is fully out of this little gap here. It's inside the trim piece. So the cable is all the way in, coming down and accessing the fuse box. The only thing you need to figure out is the exact length. How far do I need it to come in order to be able to properly connect to the camera? And the way to do that is to actually mount the camera in the intended spot. And only then you can accurately measure the length of the cable. Let's do that now. All right, the camera attaches to the windshield through a glue pad sort of surface. That's why you need to make sure that your glass is perfectly clean. I use some isopropyl alcohol to degrease and clean the glass in this area as nicely as possible so that the glue can adhere well. And the other aspect or thing to consider is that the camera, at least this particular one, it can move up and down after it is mounted, but it cannot turn left and right. So it may be a good idea to keep the camera on as you're mounting it so that you make sure that the front of the vehicle is displayed in the way that you would like it to be displayed, right? So you're not way too much to the right or way too much to the left as you're mounting the camera. So maybe have it on, have your wiring connected, the ground is in place, the fuse box is in place, have it connected so that the camera is working while you are sort of mounting it in place here. Because once you glue it, that's it. All right, the camera is in, it's glued, it's mounted, and the cable is routed. It just tucks away, comes along this way, and you can see it here in front of the wiring, the car wiring harness, then gets behind the car wiring harness and travels down into the fuse box. Now, let's tidy up the fuse box. And once that is done, I'll be putting the trim piece back in place. So here's the situation at the fuse box end. This is the cable, the USB-C cable coming down from the camera. And basically we have quite a bit of length here that is left over, just extra length. Eventually we get to this plastic piece, and then we have even extra cable here with this red and black. So all of this excess will live right down here underneath the plastic fuse compartment. There's plenty of space down there for all of this to be neatly folded, tucked away, and placed in there. I'm happy with the end result. It's kind of neat and tidy. Power, this is the USB-C to the camera. Everything else is down here. You can kind of see the cables nicely wound up. Through there we have one ground wire that goes underneath to the metal plate like we discussed. Make sure that you tighten that and you have it securely fastened. And basically the fuse compartment looks good. It's very clean, and I'm ready to put the cover back on. To reinstall the trim piece, you can just get it in position, make sure that the tabs align with the holes, and once everything is aligned, just press in to clip them back in place, and make sure after that this rubber seal is on top of the trim piece. One last thing you may want to do is the following. Of course, give contact and make sure the camera power is on. There it is. But also, because we are in essence interrupting or interfering with the cigar lighter circuit, you may want to also check this here and make sure that you're still getting power to this outlet as well, which I am at the moment. And if I turn this off. There, the light went out. So this circuit is still working, the camera is working, and everything's done. There are a few things I like about it. The camera itself is easy to remove and take with you. So you essentially just pull back and it disconnects from the mount. The mount is what is wired up. The camera is free to go with the SD card on the side. So essentially, anything happens, you need to leave the vehicle, but you need the footage. You just pull this out, put the camera in your pocket, it's super small, and you walk away. The wiring remains in place, and you don't need to worry about disconnecting wires or whatnot before you could remove the camera. So I like this sort of modularity. Of course, it's very small, and I like the fact that it has a screen on the back, which reassures me that video is being taken, and this is exactly what the camera sees. So those are a few things that I like about this particular model. I've been using it in my other vehicle for over a year, really happy with it. So I thought, look, I'll put the same thing in the Jag. At the end of the video, I wanted to include a few brief seconds of driving footage taken over the same stretch of road, first during cloudy conditions and here during a sunny day. Alright folks, this pretty much concludes the hardwiring process for the camera. Thank you again for joining me, best of luck in your upcoming projects, and I'll see you again in the next videos. Take care.